No one is born disciplined. The child that enters this world is not armed with the innate knowledge of what it takes to progress. He also isn't possessed with the certitude that action is a necessity to create results, nor does he harbor her love for hard work. If anything, his nature will make him stray away from these values, as they are uncomfortable to nurture. As a member of the human species, he will seek for shelter at all times, preferring pleasure over pain, warmth over coldness, sweet over bitter, and safety over suffering. If he is lucky, that child will have in his life parental forces that will work towards instilling in him those values that he would otherwise so desperately seek to avoid. Parallelly, the same parents will also be the ones that will be the enablers of his self-preserving tendencies by offering him food, a roof, and tenderness. That, by itself, is a privilege that is afforded to some, but is not absolutely necessary to develop discipline. It simply represents a head start, and should never be used either as an excuse to renounce the pursuit of the endeavor, or an explanation to justify its failure. If your parents over-coddled you, it's still on you to correct the draw and toughen yourself up. If your parents were too hard and demanding, it remains your responsibility to not let those negative emotions turn into a disgust for discipline. If you had no parents, then you will have to rear yourself. We all have our own ship to man and a wild sea to confront. Regardless of who taught you to sail, at the end of the day, you will be the one leading that boat. If it strays into high reefs or gets tossed by a wave, if its captain succumbs to the siren's song or loses his way, you will be the one to suffer. And at that point, blaming someone else for your unfortunate fate will change absolutely nothing to your current situation. Baki Hanma shares the same predicament. Just like you, he was not born with shrines of greatness shining the potent light of their fires upon him. Rather, he was sent to earth with the potential to set them aflame. You possess that potential as well. It is up to you to decide whether or not you want to, and if you will let that decision be the first step on a path that you will be walking for the rest of your life. For someone like Baki, who didn't get to choose and was forced to train and fight from a very young age, the relationship with discipline was one of pain and resentment. For you, it doesn't have to be that way, but this doesn't mean that it won't be difficult. By definition, the application of discipline to your life will represent the exact opposite of the unguided stream of actions you have been living leading up to this point. Now your life has a meaning, because it drives you towards a goal. A goal without a clear path to reach it is but a dream. One that draws its strength in your daily action and thoughts, however, is a destination. The strength that you will need to reach that target will be equal to the one that swells up inside your body when you envision it, as the realization of your potential is only as certain as your ability to visualize yourself doing it. I don't care what you set your sights on. It can be becoming a better swimmer, working on your short game, increasing your reading speed, or learning a new language. All that matters is that you have a goal, and that you are able and willing to let it consume you completely. The only way to make sure that you can suffer the cold bite of discipline is that the fire burning inside you is strong enough to balance it out. Baki is the man who will defeat the strongest creature on earth and claim the title of best fighter. He's had to develop a discipline of steel, resistant enough to endure any and all challenges and take on every new obstacle with fierce resilience. Because this is discipline's true nature, resilience. Training for one day isn't discipline, no matter how hard you train. Training for 10 days isn't discipline either, even if you work so hard that your bones ache. Training for 100 days still falls short of the truth, regardless of if the harshness of the regimen had you crying tears of blood. Discipline, in its truest form, goes beyond the notions of time, space, and intensity. It isn't just working hard, or else it would be called working hard. It isn't working when you feel motivated, or else it would be called motivation. Rather, it can be summed up in a simple sentence. Discipline is the action of doing what needs to be done when it needs to be done, regardless of circumstances, context, or excuses. This is because discipline is an action, not a thought. Being disciplined is not a personality trait, it is a habit. This is also why it can be developed. It is an ability that is available to any and all humans that decide they want to make it their own, regardless of who that person might be character-wise. What inspires us about Baki and the other characters of the manga like Doppo or Retsu isn't necessarily their skillful mastery of martial arts, quickness, or strength. but rather the fiery spirits that led them to develop the superhuman capacities in the first place. And what do all those men have in common? They always train. Regardless of if they had a bad day or not, they train. Regardless of if they just received a beating the previous day, they train. Regardless of if it rains or pours, snows or storms, whether or not it is too warm or too cold, if their favorite show is on TV, if they'd rather do something else, if they haven't seen their friends in ages, doesn't matter. They train. If you want to be able to build a discipline you can rely on, you need to become someone your discipline can count on as well. You must train. If you fail to do so, no matter how hard or often you wish for it, you will never develop discipline. Just like the skill of drawing can only be practiced and showcased while doing so, similarly does the strength of your will only present itself and grow when put into action. A thought that blossoms in your mind becomes a goal. A goal that you work on becomes a destination. The destination that you've reached becomes a goalpost to reach for further heights. The only thing that can stop you from building up your discipline is the action of stopping in itself. By deciding to take on that quest of self-mastery, you are also signing up for a life of happiness. A happiness dictated by a strict, rigid regimentation of your mind and habits, but happiness nonetheless. Because nothing will make you happier than giving yourself fully day in and day out to the craft you love. Nothing. No amount of possessions, attention, compliments, entertainment or food can ever hope to match that unrelenting fulfillment that a daily dose of discipline will give you. The good and bad news is that you have to renew that lease every day. Because if you don't, the fortitude of your spirit will start to waver, and you will begin going backwards on roads that you thought would never be traveled heels first. Discipline is not owned, it's rented, and rent is due every day. And remember that no matter how high you climb, this will always remain true. People who reach a goal and give up afterwards for lack of drive fail because they had never developed true discipline in the first place. While it is often born out of the necessity to reach a given goal, it is a value that you will soon find becomes self-sufficient. It does not need a clear reason to exist in your mind. Because of that, it has the power to spread and infect every other aspect of your life, far beyond what you originally intended it for. This, my friend, is called success. So go on and start working on it. What are you waiting for? Each day that you spend not hammering away at that task is another one that you will spend with a mind confiscated from its most precious ally. A human with no sense of discipline is more handicapped than if they had no limbs. Now go out there and do the work that only you were born to do. The work of your life.